dogs in it. Fli-City, come off authentic. We light it up like arse in the sauce in the We light it up like arse in the sauce in the Fli-City, got some dogs in it. Fli-City, come off authentic. We light it up like arse in the sauce in the We light it up like arse in the sauce in the Rain may come, we cover for it, it's a cover charge. Pain come in, we force ourselves to be stronger for it. Northside slum, prison beds, and I'm better for it. Representing Fli-City, now make some noise. Random corners, pushing packs, looking back, hand ups, ain't seen no pass. Fli-City got a city tax, body bags, ski masks, crime rates, I speak to God. City giving rich vibes, beat knocks through the speaker box, we don't speak a lot, just move around. Water dirty, streets dirty, whip clean. We okay, we grew up off survival schemes, rider dreams, Lion King, the jungle seems like peace to me. Struggles led to victories, now picture me 6 months out, I'm on my feet, on the business, talks with Maddie, on the business, run the city, leak with all the owners in it, minus since we bless the city with our agenda, hustlers, open finish, all ideas is open to us, just push a lane, this crooked man and we straighten out, but they tearing down, north side, south side, east side, west side, peace signs, we try to get this city get west side, north side, south side, east side, west side, north side, south side, east side, Fli-City got some dogs in it. Fli-City come off authentic. We light it up like arse in the sauce in the We light it up like arse in the sauce in the Fli-City got some dogs in it. Fli-City come off authentic. We light it up like arse in the sauce in the We light it up like arse in the sauce in the
My city experiencing the transition from penny pinching, maximizing our dollars, multiply triple digits. I came a long way from baby jars in a project kitchen. Nowadays I read grab charts and just mind my business. All praise to the Most High, how this young king living. Resurrecting the spirit of Osiris, how I'm living. Hustle and motivate your local hope dealer. I'm on tour right now, and I'm dope with it. They lied to us, stole assets, still in crisis mode. Water warriors like 1,000 we will not fold. I'm sick of fugazi leaders and career politicians. The father said people perish due to lack of vision. It's time to ride Black Lives, baby, it's on the flow. Better back, no 9 to 5, only 10 to 4. A city of monsters, a bunch of go-getters. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic.
We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic. We don't rock with starters, we too authentic.
Let's hear that.
All right. Calm it down. Good morning, good afternoon, our community. Always welcome. Cameras over here. Always welcome to say hi to everybody in our community. It's a blessing to be here today. And again, we are excited to have another installation of Fli-City. I'm always your host, Brother Hubert Naeem Roberts. And again, greetings, our beautiful community. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. How you doing, my brother, today?
Hey, you know what? I'm blessed by the best. I am just taking it all in.
Yes.
No matter what go on in the daily life, I am excited to be here and cherish every moment that I am breathing.
All right, then. We have a beautiful guest today.
Come on now.
All right, then. You want to introduce our sister?
Of course. So my sister has always been on the front line fighting for the cause. She is always taking and using her whiteness for the good and make it make sense for everybody in this community. So let's make a big shout out for lawyer Macintyre, who is definitely our Flint School Board treasurer and just a bright spot in the community. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. It's been a long week though. I do have to say it's been a long, strange week. Can you hear me okay? Or?
Yeah. Can you hear?
Does
he need the headphones? Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. How the sound going on out there, everybody?
Sibilance.
Okay. All right. Okay. So of course it's another beautiful week, and we are out here trying to be great vessels for this great community that we live in. We do love this city of Flint. We always out here about change. We got a young brother here in the studio with us, Keyshawn. Big shout out to Keyshawn. He was at he's a former Flint School student.
All right then.
And he's actually doing some great things and going to college.
That's what we want. We want.
Mm-hmm. So and all in all, let's get to it. So how are we feeling since we're talking about, our youth, right? We're talking about being activists in the city of Flint, active and just basically trying to make a change for the greater good. Where are we with our current students? What can we do to make a difference? And how can everybody get involved and make sure that we have a robust community for our young people? I know that's a loaded question, but I just wanted to kind of get it in there.
So where do you start? So yeah, I kind of need to start out by saying, yeah, I'm the treasurer on the Flint Community School Board, but I'm here as Laura Macintyre speaking for myself.
Come on now.
So I'm not speaking for the school board. I'm, not speaking for anybody but myself. So these are my own opinions and my own thoughts. So I'm not violating any of the bylaws and stuff. And yeah, so what can we do? Well, we were starting to talk about we need to start taking our own power back.
There you go.
So, I mean, we were talking about who's in power and, people who have control, but we have to realize that the power is in our hands.
There you go.
And so I find this really interesting that I met Dewan when Dewan was running for school board.
Okay.
And so that was the beginning of our beautiful friendship there.
Okay.
And we've been fighting it's just really strange to me that here I am, on the school board, having met you running for it. And then I met Keyshawn in a school board meeting when he had organized a coalition of students to fight for the International Baccalaureate program.
He sure did.
When it was being eliminated. And so now I take that task very seriously, that I am the one on the school board, moving all of this forward. I'm not on it for me. I'm on it for us.
Come on.
And I, like I said, I take that charge very, very, very seriously. And so I got elected last November, like a year ago. Got sworn in January, and it's been an uphill battle ever since. I mean, if anyone's been paying attention to what's happening in the school board, there's a lot of tumultuous changes.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a superintendent on leave. We have 2 school board members who abruptly resigned. We've got some, stuff going on with our previous attorney. There's a lot of stuff I can't actually directly speak to because of, litigation and things like that. But what I do want to say is that what I have found, or one of the things, I was going to say most troubling, but one of the things that I found that has been troubling is the fact that we don't have autonomy in our school district. So a lot of things we need to get home rule back.
Come on now.
I mean, that's a theme that we have in the city, and it runs over into the school district as well.
Right.
And so we were talking about earlier about the financial emergency manager law and how it kind of is this boogeyman like hanging over the shoulder of municipalities and school systems. So there's always a threat that if you don't have control or you're not doing the right thing, that your school system or your city can be taken.
Right.
We have, our democratic participation stripped from us.
That's right.
And so, even when I got on the school board, we had a emergency deficit and elimination plan. It was called the EDEP. I can't remember all these acronyms. I'm always mixing them up.
Right.
But we had an EDEP where we had the state imposed. We had things that, like criteria that we had to meet in order just to, be okay with the state, with the Michigan Department of Education, you know, in
Mhm.
terms of our enrollment, in terms of our test scores, in
Mhm.
terms of our finances and all this stuff. Now, COVID threw us all for a loop because now we have these ESSER monies, these ESSER dollars. So they can't really say that we're financially strapped anymore. I mean,
That's
they're still
right.
trying to say that we are,
Mhm.
but the reality is that we're not any more than any other school district
That's right.
in the nation. And in fact, one of the things that we found out for our school district, for the Flint Community School District, is we have millions of dollars worth of property that is
Mhm.
unbonded.
Right.
And that is unprecedented for school systems.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
we've got this property free and clear, and we are sitting on a gold mine. And
Mhm.
believe you me,
Wow.
there are people out there who are just waiting to get their little tentacles
On
on
that.
our property, on our prime real estate.
Look at
And that's
that.
what that's all about.
Yeah.
Question.
Plus our ESSER dollars. We've got millions of dollars in it. So we got, you know, people swooping in from the sides, just waiting to get a hold of that sweet, sweet grant money.
See, so when she talks about, when we talking about, you said about the property, right? One thing for sure. So we got all these school buildings that's currently around the city that's not being occupied.
That have been systematically destroyed. They have been destroyed on purpose.
Right.
I mean, we
Right.
all
Right.
know.
Let's call it what it is.
We
Mhm.
all know the status of Central,
Mhm.
where it was closed down. You know, even to the protests of the whole community.
Right.
And when it was closed down, they just walked right out, left everything in the building, paper, books, furniture, equipment, and left the doors open. Now, come on, that's not what you do if
That's
you're
right.
being responsible and if you've got a school district that's financially strapped.
Mm-hmm.
Make that make like Don's make that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Nah,
Make that
you-
make sense.
Yeah,
So,
you're
like,
absolutely right.
these buildings have been purposely destroyed and left to rot and ruin, and then we're blamed for it.
Mhm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was going to ask even about so those buildings have been systematically, those communities, those neighborhoods
And the neighborhoods
have been systematically disinvested, right? We have not supported those areas. We know when the school go down in the neighborhood, then the property value and the homes go down next, right? And then the students are outsourced. So now with these buildings that they're unbonded, what is our plan? I know you're not speaking on behalf of the board, but what can we do as community members to take back those properties, right? That we can potentially create as community centers and really uplift those neighborhoods.
So when you're saying take back properties, maybe the first thing to do would be realize that it's our property.
Come on,
There you
okay,
go.
there you go.
Back
Okay,
is
all right,
already ours.
all right. Tell me
There you go.
something.
And
Tell
we
me
need to
something.
recognize that
Mhm.
and retain that. We're not about to just give it away to somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to develop it. I'm going to bring in business. I'm going to
Mhm.
do this.
Right.
I'm going to do that. And then we go, okay, here you go for $1. You can have it, because
Right.
that's what's been done in the
Mhm.
city before.
Mhm.
And it doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the people who live here. It doesn't bring in business.
Mhm.
And
Right.
it basically just gives away our assets and privatizes. And that's what we need to stop doing.
Right,
We need to stop doing. This whole financial emergency manager was a whole plan to take all of our community assets and privatize them, our water system, our
Mhm.
garbage trucks, everything, our school system. Right now, we're fighting for our school system to
Right.
keep it public and to keep it in Flint,
Flint. Yes,
not
ma'am.
under GISD,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not under some charter school management company. Makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
So
you're
we're not
absolutely right.
under the nonprofit industrial complex. We need destroyed and left to rot and ruin, and then we're blamed for it.
That's
No.
right.
Mhm.
No.
That's absolutely right. See, I was going to ask even. I don't know what else so that we can honestly think about, and I like how you just recreated those communities, those neighborhoods
And the neighborhoods.
have been systematically disinvested. Right.
Mhm.
We have not supported those areas. We know when the school go down in the neighborhood, then the property value and the
So,
homes
yeah,
go down
so
next.
for me,
right? And then
and
the
like I said, I'm
students are
speaking for
outsourced.
myself.
So
I am on the
now with these
board.
buildings
This is
that they're
why I got on the
unbonded,
board, and this is
what
why
is
I
our
was elected
plan?
to
I know
be on the
you're not
board,
speaking on behalf of the
because,
board,
like, I
but
didn't
what
get
can
here
we
by
do?
myself. I got
Mhm.
here because of you,
Mhm.
because of Claudia Perkins, because of Sister Audrey Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a village behind me, and I'm here for us,
Come
not
on
for
now.
myself. And
As community
we are
members to
not
take back
going
those
to
properties.
give up our school district. And not only that, but all those things that have been outsourced in
Mhm.
our school, we have security that's our source, janitorial services, we have substitute service. It's all out to third parties.
Well,
right
what
now.
happened when you mentioned that, my sister, is that, remember, see, again, when they somewhat attacked, when you think about the UAW, and then it became a right to work state. So all this has been put in plan, and what are we seeing is the manifestation of that plan that was put in some years ago to eliminate the unions. Because what was happening is more of the communities that were Democratic were union communities across the country. And so there has been an effort afoot to break the union, to destroy that Democratic base. And this is what we're seeing today. And a lot of us in our community across the board, because we really didn't have a solid understanding of civics, number one,
Right.
the legislative process, number two, locally understanding the power of our vote and what that vote really meant as far as getting people that were going to stand and fight for what they believed to know what was right based on what the community said. Because a lot of times, because not saying that no one is a PhD or have any other type of higher education, but a lot of the basic understanding how municipalities work, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are living on fear. A lot of people are trying to work day to day. So they are expecting, like you say, the school or the garbage and all these things to work. And don't know the minutia of it, don't know how really those dots really work. So like you mentioned, everything that's happening today has been put in plan
But
25 years ago.
I think that's intentional, though.
Oh, it is very
I think it's
intentional. It's no accident. It's
it's
intentional.
yeah, it's purposely made confusing so that you can't understand and you can't keep track of it. I mean, once you figure out how the system works, they change the system. Like right now, we're redistricting, to again
Right.
re-gerrymander
Come on now.
the voting districts.
And it's all about power.
Mhm.
See, again, and the only thing I push back on you about, they don't really make it complicated. They are really working to maintain power.
Mm.
And because we have a populace that is not as astute, because a lot of the tactics that they use, they don't use in Grand Blanc, or they don't use in Fenton, or they don't use in Goodrich. Because again, you have communities out there that's sticking together, that they can get on one agenda and they will fight for that agenda. They'll lay down in the middle of the street and say, no, you're not going to have no expressway running through here.
Right.
We're not going to have it. So when you have a community that's fragmentized, afraid, they can't come together, because that's the powers in the people. And that's where we really got to have a conversation, is how do we wake the people up to start, as you just said, we already got it. So how do we make it happen and make it make sense for us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I want to push back a little bit with that too, because I don't think that it's just the people in Goodrich and Grand Blanc, that it's their power of coming together and that they're unified, because I don't think they are. I think that in terms of political power, they're lazy, that they have as much unconsciousness as say that we do. I think they just are upholding the status quo, so they're not getting as much opposition. They're not. I don't see anyone laying down in the streets in Grand Blanc.
Okay.
I mean, maybe with this masking stuff, but that's just. I don't, let's
Yeah,
not,
blow.
let's not
Leave
even
that
get
one
into that
alone.
rabbit hole. But
Okay.
anytime the people have truly come together to fight something, and so I was in the Flint schools in the 1970s, and I went to Walker School. And when it was being changed from an open school, and then the 475 and all that, and they closed down the school, and there was a lot of transitions that were happening in the schools in the 70s. And I remember, not very vividly, because I was like 8, 9, 10, I don't remember. I remember being dragged to these meetings, these community meetings, these picket lines and things like this, and protesting the change in our schools. And they didn't listen. And there was a lot of us, and we were laying down in the streets. We were on the sidewalks. We were doing all this stuff. And it wasn't, it didn't do anything, because I don't really have an answer about exactly why it didn't do anything because I'm not doing like an analysis of that. But when you go back, when I read Andy Highsmith's book, Demolition Means Progress, and then started reading about what was actually going on in the 70s, I'm like, oh my God. No wonder we didn't get what we wanted because all of this other stuff. And now I'm living through it. I'm watching it. I'm experiencing it. But it's only in hindsight that, well, and actually you have a historian who's gone into the archives and gotten documents that have been purposely hidden from us.
Yes.
And so he's exposed some stuff.
Come on.
And I'm like, okay, so this was purposely done to disenfranchise our community.
It was. Yes, ma'am.
And then what we find out is that in 1976, and I always hark back to this, and everyone says to me, like, oh, that's old history, that's ancient history. Let's move forward. Let's just go on and let's stop dwelling on the past. It's like it's not the past because it's right now.
That's right.
That's right. It's still happening.
1976, the federal government declared that the Flint community school systems were one of the top 5 most segregated schools in the country and was going to withhold federal funding. So at that point, we had that. And that's when, I was being dragged to these meetings and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's what was going on. There was this whole battle over integration of the schools in 1976. And that's not what they teach you in the history book. They teach you 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, all deliberate speed. By the 1976, we're supposed to be all one big happy kumbaya family.
No way.
No, we weren't. And Flint, Michigan, one of the it's not Alabama, it's not Mississippi, it's not Missouri, it's in the north. One of the 5 most segregated schools.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, we could tell you that being in the schools, but that's not what the narrative was. That's not what we're a northern city. We are the model community school system for the nation, right? The light schoolhouse
during this time.
Right, we're supposed to be the model for education.
Right.
And isn't it ironic that the model for education was one of the most segregated? And that was by design.
Come on now, speak on it. See that's
so this whole community education was a smokescreen.
Yes,
you know what, I definitely, and I researched and I definitely have looked up on that when we talk about the community schools. That initiative was a separate issue, right? When we talking about, we think it's a great idea. We thought it was great for the community, right? Some of the concepts may have been good when you got the access to the community school in your neighborhood, where it had resources, those type of things.
It would have been good if the neighborhoods had been integrated, or if we had equality, or we had equity, but we didn't. So
So just even looking at that, you shedding light on some points, right? When you're talking about those things and you're talking about the Brown versus education, but in 1976 we still segregated and we're still not operating as the world has saw us.
2021 and we're still segregated. Come on.
Right.
2021 we still
we've never not been segregated.
Right. And like, and then the big trick is, they roll out this race theory when that's not taught, and no elementary K through is never taught, only at a higher level, of graduate study is that even mentioned. And so again,
which part though?
The critical race theory piece, that's not taught in no elementary school, no junior high school, no K through 6th grade. It's not. When you think about critical race theory.
No, we're still teaching Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and
and that's which is a lie. All those things are lies. And when you think about, just teaching about the real honest history is so important, because you don't even have to separate real history of American history. If you even start about this country was taken from people that was already here, that's how you start the conversation. When we can agree that this country was taken, that's the honest conversation. But they don't want to teach that at all, because again, they got an agenda. And so that agenda has been locked in. And as you eloquently stated, the way they rolled it out in the past was to create chaos, because as long as they can keep us fearful and at each other's throat, the congressmen and senators and presidents, they lollygag and continue to build their war chest and let us bleed and die in the streets over nothing and get nothing down, while our children, all of them are broken hopeless. They feel like, well, why should I even go to school? And many of our children can't even read. Right now, we have 12th graders that can't read.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4th graders reading at a first grade level. And you think about that. And so, who is responsible for that? We have to put some onus on the community at large, but the family. So, if we say 3 generations since the late 70s, when crack or cocaine was intentionally put in our community by Ronald Reagan, if we start there, and then we look at today with the opiate crisis and how opiate is getting all kind of benefits for treatment, and police have this Narcan in the car to make sure, a person with cocaine will not die. You think of disparity as far as at one time, lock them up, lock them up, lock them up.
Strikes, yeah.
3 strikes. So again, when you think about all of these things that go into the gumbo or the melting pot of why Flint intentionally has been destroyed. But the real thing of our conversation today is, as you just said, what are some things that we can actually do with our hands, our feet, and our bodies to start addressing um, our children being mistreated like this?
So I think it's, like I said, it's important to recognize that, to take back our power.
Okay.
Um, and to start going to school board meetings, because there is a
Mm.
new school board,
Okay.
and people are paying attention and people are listening, and there's been a shift in the culture of the
Okay.
school board.
Wow.
So I think that, there's more attention being paid to the fact that we have to have more community input. I personally have been trying to get, and I know other board members have too. Like I said, I'm only speaking for myself. So me saying that I'm doing this doesn't mean that anybody's not doing it or anything
Okay.
like that,
Okay.
right? So,
Yeah.
but getting things out into the open. One of the reasons why I ran for school board was because I would go to school boards for over
Mhm.
like 10 years,
Okay.
because I was trying to get information.
Okay.
Right, I was trying to get information, like with Keyshawn. Why was the International Baccalaureate program destroyed?
Right.
Why was it eliminated? When
Mhm.
you've got a whole cohort of students who are saying, "Please, please, please keep it. I'm in it. I still want it." Right.
Mhm.
So it's like, let's get this out in the open meetings.
Mhm.
Let's answer some questions. And I
Right.
would go as a community
parent.
member,
Right.
and I'd be like shuffled along to a PR. Why does a school district with under 3,000
Need a
students have a
PR.
PR firm that
I
we're
know
paid
that's
over
right.
$10,000 a month?
Yeah, you're
So
right
that's
about that.
another thing.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So that's,
Unacceptable.
we got to look at these third party contracts.
Mhm.
We got to look at who's getting their palms greased.
That's right.
Right.
Because
That's
the
right.
gravy train is going to stop.
There
And
you
so
Mm.
for whatever reason, I got elected treasurer. That's humorous to me.
That's right on the
But
money.
that's an important position, though.
That's right.
It
That's
is,
right.
but
powerful
it's
position.
it's
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not letting things go. And one of the reasons why I'm kind of getting, raked over the coals, because I'm asking the hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we spending the money for this? Where's the money going for this? Okay, the
Mhm.
line item says this, but that makes sense to me. I don't understand what that means.
Right.
And it's, I've been accused of like overreaching my duties and, micromanaging, but I don't see it that way,
Right.
because these
No.
questions have not been asked in the past, or they haven't been asked enough. And what we're finding is a lot of disturbing. I'll leave it there. We're finding a lot of disturbing things, but we do need people to come to the board meetings,
Yes.
because you will be heard, you will
Mhm.
be listened to, and we need to stop these third party contracts. Like I
Mhm.
was telling you before
Yep.
the show
Mhm.
started, we have community school directors that aren't even that is run by a nonprofit organization.
That's right.
Our own community school directors aren't even within the purview of the community schools.
That's
So
unacceptable.
how does
I don't-
that work though?
You explain that to me. I don't know. How do you have a community school director that's not actually a community school director? That's like 1984 double speak to me. That's like co-opting the term community school director, and it's like co-opting the term community education.
Right.
Mhm.
Right? It's not community education. It's segregation. It's, business. It's reproducing inequality.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so that's when you say, what do we do? Well, we recognize that that's happening, and
Mhm.
then we come to the meetings, and Right now, the school board has put out, that we've got these properties. We're looking for programs, organizations, individuals. Like, we need our after-school programs
Yes.
back in the schools.
Yes.
We need
Come
our
on, you're
preschool
right.
programs
You're right.
back in the schools.
Back in the school.
Not under GISD, not under Crim Fitness Foundation,
Thank you.
not under
Mhm.
Youth Quest. We have the talent, we have the resources that we can have it in-house. Why are we going through EduQuest to do
I always-
substitute services?
Yeah.
Come on. Why are we have teach out policing our students? We don't, first of all, our students don't need to be policed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
Right, we've got a
Hey, yeah, that
thriving
was-
school to prison pipeline,
right.
and that's why you
right.
said students can't read because they're not meant to read. They're
Mhm.
not. They're meant to go to prison
Right.
Right.
because we've got that pipeline.
That's business.
So kind of just kind of going into that though, how do we get ourselves and reclaim, our power when you're talking about having full autonomy, being able to facilitate your funds, to be able to have school programs, to have police out of the school? How do we as community members assist the school board in having autonomy?
Well, come to the school board meeting. Say,
Mhm.
get teach out of here. I don't want metal detectors. I don't want.
I really
like,
don't. We really don't.
But
Really
a
don't.
lot of people are like, oh no, we've got to police. We've got to. No, we don't. We don't.
We don't.
And we
really
do
don't.
have restorative justice practices
Mhm.
and programs.
Yes,
Mhm.
right.
that
That's
we
right.
bring in, not from some third party
Right.
nonprofit
Right.
Right.
organization that's
You're
gonna,
absolutely
like,
right.
take grant money to do that. We can do it ourselves.
In-house.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And so we need people to speak up about that. And
So
so like when we've got like teach outs, contract coming up, get 10, 20 people to
Mhm.
come to the microphone and say no.
Yeah.
Say no to this contract. Like,
Right.
pay attention to what's
Mhm.
going on. And to be fair,
Right.
the board really needs to do a better job with the administration. And remember, this is a culture of fear and intimidation that's been operating for
Yep.
dozens of years. Like I
Okay.
said, this is a new school board, so we're trying to get this information out in public and accessible so that
Mhm.
we have more control and power over our own school system.
Okay.
But we do
Okay.
need more input, more community,
So
participation.
when is the school board meeting? So I'm putting it in.
So
here.
the next school board meeting is going to be November 17th, and it's going to be a really big one because we're not having a school board meeting next week because we're going on the Michigan Association of School Boards is having a conference, and so we're getting some resources to
Mhm.
to be better as a school board, like learning the bylaws and stuff like this. So we
Good.
can,
Good training. Yep.
and we're going to change some of the bylaws because we've got to have more democratic participation within the board itself.
Come on.
And then bring in the community to have more participation. But
Come on.
we've got to look at these third-party contracts. We've got to
Yes.
eliminate them.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
We've got to, you've got to have our own employees. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Is it at Southwestern? Is 5:30 at Southwestern?
No, it's not at Southwestern. It's at Scott School. It's at the
Scott School.
ALA for right now.
Okay.
That's just what we've done since COVID. That's another thing. We are at an unprecedented time because we have these ESSER dollars.
Okay.
So
Tell us
we
about
have-
those dollars.
I don't.
Or
We've
if-
got a lot of money that's coming in from the federal government because of the COVID situation, and we have ESSER 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have to, for ESSER 3, get community part. The state's demanding, the federal government is demanding that we have a certain level of community participation. So,
Okay.
Come on. That's right.
I mean participation that goes beyond just administering some stupid survey and
Right. Right.
fudging the numbers.
Exactly.
I'm talking about real community participation.
Some real impact.
Yes.
So let me say this. So for groups that's out there, that's in the neighborhood, that's in the grassroots, that's out there doing the work, that has youth programs, who are connected to our young people of today, like that's been shut out because they're not the big organization. They don't
Being shut
have
up.
the United Way support or the Crim Fitness Foundation
Mhm.
support. How do we get those folks activated? How do we get fathers who are willing to come into the schools and be hallway monitors, and just support the issue? How do we help get them some resources to be able to strengthen the programs that I see that could be effective for Flint schools?
So what we're doing is we're trying to get those contacts and whatever level like the group is at, or even if, people aren't part of a group or have an idea,
Right.
like to just get people to come forward and, to connect them with other people, like say for you, for example, because you've
Right.
been through the ringer
Right.
and you know the process, like,
Right.
okay, I've got this idea.
Mhm.
This is what I want to do.
Mhm.
Connect them to people like you, to mentors and to other organizations that have the resources and know what to do to go through that process. Because you were saying
Right.
that the process isn't that hard. Like once you just gotta, and I'm saying that it is. Like I would push back a little bit. I call the paperwork and the bureaucracy, I call it administrative violence. And it's no coincidence that under colonization, you had the military come in first and kill everybody, and then you had the colonial administrators administrating it. And what I see now is these systems are like colonial administration. And we're under colonial administration. So I call it administrative violence. So we've got to come together to combat this administrative violence and to help each other figure out how to work within the system. And then at the same time, we gotta abolish this system. So I'm an abolitionist. I think we can't, the master's tools cannot change the master's house, cannot dismantle the master's house. We need to get rid of these systems.
I love it. She talking gospel.
All right.
No, the thing is though, we were talking about this earlier, and we've been dealing with this, all week. Is those systems, right? We have to crush those systems that keep us oppressed, right? We always fall in line. It's always a system in place. See, so even like this election that took place Tuesday, I know folks are like, they're voter fatigued. They don't want to be a part of it. They've been bamboozled for so long. They sick and tired of just people. They sick and tired of these systems. As an alternative, we as people in this community who care, who really want to do it, we have to create the system. We have to create our own system, right? Not the government, not the educational system, right? How do we as residents, that's the force that we have to come with. How do we go ahead and say we're done with this system or these systems, and what do we put in place that's going to work? Like, I'm always talking about solution, right? If we take away this thing, what are we going to replace it with? What are we going to do? What can we do?
I think we've got to look to our elders, to the people who've done the hard work before us, and to people who are out there right now fighting. Like I'm a huge proponent of Angela Davis and her abolitionist program, program. Like it's the school system, the police, the prison system, it all goes back to slavery. And this is all just reproducing a slave system without the actual slavery. Right. And so we need to get rid of it. Like we can't just replace it. It needs to be gone. Right. So there are things that are out there to have instead, not to necessarily replace. Like we do have restorative justice systems.
That's right.
We do have ways of organizing. Like you can do consensus decision making as opposed to even democratic decision making can be a little totalitarian after a while. You can have the tyranny of the majority and all that.
Right. You can
consensus decision making. You've got to get rid of patriarchy and you've got to get rid of hierarchy. So I know that scares people sometimes when you talk about non-hierarchical systems, because everyone's like, ooh, anarchy and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to stop having haves and have-nots, right? We all have different abilities and different access to things, but it's got to be more equitable.
Right.
It's got to be more across the board. And it can't just be, someone at the top deciding what's good for everybody else. So we've got to get out of that mindset.
And replacing that mindset with something different. What do you feel? What do you two feel like that looks like?
I mean, when you just mentioned about, the community actively getting engaged, especially around, some bodies that really care and those that have retired. Many of our community members can step up and be at these board meetings and then put together a proposal or a plan to actually be in those schools. To actually bring in a plan to say, I'm willing to help facilitate after school tutoring, meaning from 3 to 6. I'm going to be dedicated 5 days a week. And then Saturday and Sunday, get the churches involved because the church is going to be a component of the school. So we're going to bring back home economics and a lot of those other things, skills that and especially civics, man. Civics is a big thing that we need back into our school system.
Yeah.
And then we need, again, back to phonics and that. They come with these new program fandango programs, but kids learn simply, like you say, with phonics, with loving them, hugging them, and letting them know that you care about them, where they don't be bused for an hour out to Grand Blanc or Davidson, that they are walking to a school right down the street from them. That's another thing, back to what you're saying about these properties that we have that are empty, need to be refurbished and brought back to life where these kids can go to school right down the street. And the school is like a community hub
Mhm.
where all that you can, washing machines, everything that you can
Right.
imagine,
Mhm.
healthcare, counseling, emergency clinics, all are right there in that school.
That's right.
Because it can be a community incubator,
Yeah.
which they used to be, and the churches used to be. But back to what you were saying earlier about this emergency manager and this outsourcing. This has been the biggest thing that has totally destroyed this country. Aside from the 500 years of enslavement, I mean, that's number one. But what has really done us a disservice is everything has become monetized, from healthcare, everything that you can imagine. If they had the
Well,
power,
that's capitalism.
if they had the power, they would make us pay for air.
Oh, that's coming
They
down the
already do.
pipeline.
They already do. If you go to climb Mount Rushmore, which is another example of colonization, and I don't even want to talk about it like that, but I agree with you. But we also, like, I'm just wary of, like, having these. We still need to be very mindful of the fact that we still have redlining, and we still have housing discrimination, and we
Yeah.
still have gentrification, and we have these
Yes.
like property vultures. So it's one thing to say, yeah, I want these community schools, and I do want community schools. I want to be able to walk out of my house and go down the street. But on the other hand, I live in Ward 6, Mott Park, and if you look at my old deed to my, it still says that you can't sell your house to Jews and blacks on my housing deed. So I mean, it's still there. These housing, and it's not legal, but
The covenants.
those housing covenants, like those, I like to when I teach classes, I like to talk about society as being like a bathtub. You take a bath in this water, and the water gets dirty, and you can get rid of the water, but you're still going to have that ring around the bathtub.
Right.
We got to scrub that out.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Because like you can
We
fill it
gotta
up.
we gotta throw the whole tub out.
Right.
Man. It's
You
around
know
with
what
us.
I'm saying?
This
You know what I'm
is
saying? Because you can't just fill it back up and
Right.
take a clean bath. You can't do that.
no.
So
That's a good analogy.
That's it. I can't stand them rings.
That would be a good role play.
Is that what that is? Okay.
You know how we have drama therapy. We act
Right,
out
right,
the
right.
part.
Right.
We bring in a bathtub.
Right.
And fill it up for the kids.
Right. And see if they get
This is real life.
Right.
You gonna get in that dirty water? No.
Right. You crazy? Nah,
Your community.
I think that's a clear picture of where we stand. But I understand our passion, and so what we do is we do have to abolish these systems, and it's a shame that we still have some of these things hanging over our head and still dealing with from years and years before. Discrimination never left. Discrimination will never leave. But the thing is, we have to be diligent enough to go ahead and eliminate these systems, eliminate these people, these mindsets who continue to perpetuate this type of behavior. It's nuts. I'm pissed. I'm kind of feeling the way when you even talking about the house deed and those type of things that they did with the red line, and then now you got the redistricting commission trying to come in and outline the 34th district. So it's always coming at you.
Land bank who's hanging on to certain
Always.
properties and letting it go to
Until you move. Yeah.
And we can't have home ownership, because what we need investment in our community, and that means like home ownership.
Right.
You can't have these landlords coming in, and you can't have these
Speculators.
certain areas being
Right.
left to be green spaces.
The innovation spaces,
right.
those things is not going to work for us. And we denounced the master plan that Flint came up with, the Motts came up with 4 or 5 years ago. We don't even live by that. But you're absolutely right when you talk about the land bank and then them getting over $30 million in COVID dollars and not going to do any investment into the properties. They own a third of Flint. You got to understand that's a big piece of Flint. and they're not even looking at to do any investment in those areas. We got spaces right here, even in over here in the Metawanee Hills, Smith Village.
Right.
You have plots of land that's owned by the land bank, but you have new homes over there. You got new properties, right? New homeowners, right? But the spots that they own, the grass is about higher than the house.
Right.
It's just like, what is the need of the land bank? Why do we continue to keep enduring their behavior? Like, they are not looking at reinvesting in the city. They need to get out the way and give those properties or commercial buildings to folks who have plans, who wants to invest, who wants to renovate, who wants to do something different. So we got a schooling issue, we got a property issue, we got a leadership issue. But I think with good folks like you all, I think when we kind of generate a plan from the community and we start looking at this thing one step at a time and addressing pockets of it, right? Because when you look at all these issues, it's very overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? You kind of feel
so I just want to reiterate, this is a new day and a new school board. I know people are like, what the heck's going on with the school board and everything?
Right.
But remember, I just got elected last November. I got sworn in January, so it's only been, this, and it's been so tumultuous, and we have changed things, and it's for the better. So come out and get involved. Also, there are going to be 5 seats that are open next November
for school board.
So Joyce and I are going to be the only ones.
You hear that?
The only incumbents.
Wow, community.
So, and believe you me, the powers that be already have in mind who they want to fill those school board seats, because they are running scared with these COVID dollars, because they don't have control over them, and it's millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. And so we need community members
Yes.
to run for school board.
So I want to read this comment off for you. So Becky Brown asks, Laura, will Flint Community Schools get school librarians for our students to truly learn?
I'm just one person. I'm just one,
Or do you support that? Yeah, because she's just one person. Yeah,
of course. Oh my gosh. I've got thousands of books like just laying around the house. We've got, our little free libraries all over the neighborhood. I'm just a book hoarder, and I truly believe in reading. It saved my life. It's one of the things that got me through adolescence. I just read everything I could. So absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm all about. Yeah. I'm
in big support of that. I do feel like we do need to tap into our librarians. We do need after school reading. We do need to focus on writing, right? Those basic fundamentals. And I think, we can kind of have folks who come in. Sometimes it's a sacrifice just to come in and help. We've been doing that for years, right? Just coming in and just supporting young people and helping where we can help. And hopefully, we're making a difference at the end of the day. But we want to continue to just uplift the spirits and those folks on school board. You've been getting the Flint School Board has been getting a lot of support on here. They've been saying you guys are trying to work together. They love what you're doing, Laura. We love what you and Joyce are representing on the board. She did say there will be 5 seats opening up next November. So we want to make sure that we are planning and strategizing to have some innovative folks that can come in and do the work, and preferably from the community. So we definitely want to throw that back out there.
She's saying that libraries are beyond books, and I want to acknowledge that. Yes, because that's like something that is more. Libraries are an ideology, and the idea that books are like air and water, and that they should be accessible. And it's our road to freedom. It's our lifeline to freedom. I mean, I know several people all around the world who were disenfranchised, and we just found books wherever we could, and honestly, you don't even need a school system if you got a bunch of books. You know what I'm saying? And so libraries are
right.
I mean, because we can teach ourselves and all
we
that
can teach
kind
ourselves
of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
But libraries are one of those things that we've kind of given up on. It used to be, you used to have community swimming pools, you used to have community libraries. Nobody ever questioned that.
Right.
And we have gotten rid of everything under the guise of fiscal responsibility. And it's all, it actually doesn't save us money. It actually costs us money.
A lot of time when you say, what really happened was the money was shift. That was supposed to go to the community, as you just mentioned about community centers, after school activities, swimming pools, the list go on and on and on. And it was redirected to the police. You know, when you think about
Mm.
that whole concept of resources, because you only have made $10. So what do we do with these $10? So again, as you just well know that this country, the only purpose of black people were here was for to be enslaved, not to become anything other than work and die. So we need to be clear and understand that. And then how appalling this country is. Again, if you got caught learning how to read, you would be put to death. Those things
Mm.
are factual. So
Mm-hmm.
now when we look at what we're doing in 2021, and you have people in our community that are denying that an insurrection took place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ex-president is saying that he's still president and he lost the election. And I mean, when you can perpetuate this kind of mindset, it's no surprising of what we're dealing with when we think about financially being manipulative and being intentionally destroying the foundation for success for our community. And that's where it's going to have to be those warriors and those people that's going to be willing to do some of the hard work by forming committees or groups like the Red Hat Club started with 2 people. So now they are a phenomenal group, but they were dedicated and committed to wanting to make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, we can be a phoenix because when we have people to come together, and I'm going to plug this, and we're going to give this to Miss Laura.
Mm-hmm.
We have been valuing our students for several years before the pandemic involved. Dads has been greeting the students around this community before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, we started back in October, and I'm going to listen, hoping that she will encourage the council members to come out and help us greet the students that we've been doing for years. And we just started back doing in October.
Mm-hmm.
The first Monday of the month, we're at Southwestern at 7:30, and it's called Involved Dad, valuing our students. The second Monday of the month, we are at New Standard at 6:45 a.m. and 7:45 a.m. The third Monday of the month, we are at Scott's ALL 7:30 and Durant Torrey Mott at 8:15. The fourth Monday, we are at Eagles Nest, and that's 8:15. And just going to leave this with her because, again, a lot of times we hear people complaining. So I thought of this years ago
Mm-hmm.
because we got tired of some of the stuff that was being said and some things that were taking place at school. And I said, well, what can we do with the power that we have? Well, let's just greet our children as they get off the bus going inside the school. So we put the red carpet out and celebrate them. And with COVID now, we have 6 feet distance, but we still trying to encourage them to let them know that we love them, that
Mm-hmm.
they are valuable, that they are so important because many times our children never are told you matter, that I love you, that I
Mm-hmm.
see you. And that's something that we can do as a community. We can start looking at each other in the eyes, start spending time with each other, stop being afraid of each other,
Mm-hmm.
stop perpetuating the narrative that everybody want to kill each other, and really, really take some time out to say, I'm going to get a group of young people and start working with them with the fundamentals of arithmetic, with phonics, with just the basic. I'm talking about see John or see Malik run. Malik runs to the store. Just the because a lot of our children can't even see the letter S and can't even know that it's an S. Or even the. They can't even formulate the. This is what we're dealing with.
See, and you make an excellent point because you're talking about reading students and giving them that eye contact and that
Mm-hmm.
humanity
Yep.
and that love,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because otherwise, what else? What's the alternative? At Southwestern, the first thing they see are locked doors and teach out security behind those locked doors. The doors aren't opened until school starts, and then they got to walk through a metal detector.
That's right.
So we got to change
That's
that.
right.
We got to change all those things. And I think, taking that initiative and having these things, and you're saying that this is involved dads, but really anybody can come. I was hoping to come on Monday, but I wasn't able to make it. But anybody can come to these
Anybody can.
things.
It's
And I
welcome.
think one thing
Welcome.
you just said, people always talk about change and are unwilling to really change. because that's what it takes. When you are serious about change, because change is going to happen regardless of what we do. Every day that we're alive, it is a new day. It is a
Mhm.
birthday. But when we think about change, because we get in habits, as you said earlier about emergency manager, and as you said about these specifically communities of color around the country and around the state that were depleted of their resources
Mhm.
and then forced to be taken over
Mhm.
because their management is no longer being their bond rating was reduced. You think about it, man.
Mhm.
The bond, see, a lot of times that's why understanding the whole concept of municipalities and how this game is really played
Mhm.
because they play it so wickedly. And a lot of times, layperson don't have a clue, and you be looking up, you saying, "Well, my taxes. I see where my taxes is supposed to be going for this. Well, what happened to the community pool? They didn't close the pool.
Mhm.
What now? They didn't sold the garbage trucks. Who
Mhm.
sell
Mhm.
garbage trucks?
Mhm.
You think
Right.
about that, like you said, how insidious that is, and then give somebody a 50-year tax break.
That's right.
Who is insane to do? Even if you're in your own home, you wouldn't even do that.
Well, I mean,
I mean, come on, y'all.
well,
Right,
and
yeah.
and that's why I'm not asking the questions like, why did we get rid of the service center and the
Right, come
property
on.
I
down
don't
at the
know.
cultural center
Come on,
for $75,000? It's worth way more than that. And
come
not
on
only
now.
that, but
Right.
it
That
housed
was
our central kitchen, and then we had to
Yes,
relocate our central kitchen to Northwestern,
Northwestern.
and there's no students in Northwestern. Come on now,
Come
and it
on
cost
now.
us over
yeah.
$200,000 just in electricity to run it.
Look at that.
Like,
Mhm.
and we sold it for $75,000. What?
Who made
We're
the decision on that?
okay.
Right.
We're investigating.
Who made that
Because that
I
decision?
was
am going to find out,
Please.
and we
that
are
was
going to like no,
Man.
and we're this is like everyone's like, don't dig
Wow.
into the past. The past is the past. We got to move forward. No,
That's a
we
lot.
can't move forward
Until
until
you
we
understand the
until we
past.
hold
right,
those
right.
accountable
Right.
for these past misdeeds.
There
You
you
got
go.
to.
Because this wasn't a mistake.
No,
This
ma'am.
wasn't, oops. This was intentional. And this was
Intentional.
designed to to privatize and disenfranchise
Privatize and
our school system.
disenfranchise.
I
That's it.
firmly believe, and this is my personal opinion,
Mhm.
that the school system was designed to be dissolved.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And because you had a whole bunch of seats, 3 seats that were up for election, school board seats
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
last election.
Yes,
Come
ma'am.
on, that was weird. Why are they jumping ship? It's
Why?
because
Yeah.
I think it was like, oh, there's not going to be a school district. And then we had COVID,
Mhm.
and that really threw everybody for a loop. That changed the narrative. And now we have money. Oh no, like there's
Right.
some things you can't
Yeah.
plan for. You can't plan for babies being poisoned with lead and a global
Mhm.
pandemic. And so those actually are two, if you want to say there's positive things that came out of the water crisis and COVID, is that it might have given us a lifeline for our school district. Because
see,
otherwise that master plan would have gone through
And
and we would be without a school district.
you say God is always in the mix, even if it's insanity. Hey,
God
one thing you mentioned just a
is
minute ago about, and it's amazing because that is a profound element when, you have a school and you have administrators and people that are in place
Mhm.
to protect you and to protect your dollar and protect your interests.
Mm.
And then we
Well,
find,
supposedly.
but we find ourselves, as you just said, supposedly, but think
Mhm.
about it. They had Betty the boss, and her mandate was serious, man. It
Mhm.
was not for the public schools, y'all.
No.
That was intentionally. That's
Tell her
corporate.
tell her what the mandate was.
The mandate was to destroy the public school system,
Mhm.
to
Oh,
put
yeah.
in, like you just said, these charter schools or the school is a business.
Mhm.
Period.
Education is a business.
Mhm.
Again, and it don't have anything to do with children and
Mhm.
learning.
Yeah.
It's
Under
about
capitalism, everything is a business.
And the
everything
Everything
is a
is a
business.
commodity.
That's why they say
It's a-
getting rid of capitalism.
It's
That's
about numbers. It's about numbers.
Mhm.
It's about numbers. And again, it's about shareholders. So you think
Mhm.
about the shareholders, and they bottom line is dollar and making money off of their investment.
Mhm.
It's not about educating. And the many I can get out, just like with these private prisons, and just like you think about from 1970, the national expenditures for the whole country for the prison population was $200 million. In 2021, it's over 300 billion. That's not by accident.
And they're mostly private.
Mm.
The prisons have been privatized too. And then another thing, you look at prisons, you look at the map of the United States with slave plantations, and you overlay the map with
Private prison.
private prisons.
Don't get it twisted.
They're right over the slave plantations. I mean, look at Angola and Georgia.
Come on now, and then you think about it. It's
called the
amazing.
farm.
It's
That's
amazing
sick.
And
because
it
That is
looks
sick.
exactly like a plantation. You go and you see prisoners that are picking cotton just like they were back under slavery.
come on.
It doesn't look anything
Mhm.
different than
Anything
during
different.
slavery.
And you think about it, in 1861, there was 4 million enslaved Africans, and in 2021, there's over 7 million people, black and brown people, over 7 million that are either in prison, jail, or on probation. And then think about it, we are 5% of the world's population, and 25% are locked up. 25% of our people are locked up, but we 5% of the world population. And then we have 5 family members of the Walton, which is Walmart, that have more resources than 2.5 billion people on this planet. Now that gives you a real indication about capitalism in this country called America.
Well, thank you for breaking that down like that. So, and I'm glad you actually, this conversation is nurturing, it's very informative. And then, I'm glad you hear our segment about history impact. We'll be going into our history impact, and Brother Roberts will give us that information. So at this time, we'd like to pass it over to him for our history impact.
Oh, right.
Again, and I welcome again my beautiful community. This is another installation or installment of our History Impact, Black Lives Matter. Again, I am your moderator, Mr. Naeem Roberts, and again, it's always enlightening anytime we have a chance to really delve into. And today, I really want to start off with cowboy. How many of us really know about the history of that word, the cowboy, and where that really originated from? When you think about it, there's some awesome information that has been provided to us, because a lot of times we look at John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and all these characters that many times you have witnessed and you have watched and with your grandparents, your grandmothers, and don't realize that was a derogatory term at one time, because the whites were called cow hands and the blacks were called cowboys, to be very disparaging to the cowboys. But what was miraculous about this whole concept of our people being engaged in that kind of work, it's hard work. White people didn't want to do no hard work at all. Y'all get that? Make sure we're clear about that. But what they did was the black and the Americans of African descent, or them early Africans that came over because they were from an agrarian society, they adapted to the West and always been comfortable with animals, right? So they brought in several new interventions as far as dealing with breaking the buck, or breaking a horse, was instituted by our early black cowboys. A lot of the Lone Rangers, some of you guys remember the Lone Ranger and Tonto. That story is based on Bass Reed. Then you had Cherokee Bill and Bill Pickett, and all these guys, man, they were wrestlers and all these kind of things, but did a lot of different tricks on the horse and with the cattle. And those things are so important, because I want you guys, encourage you guys to do some research on the black cowboys and what they really brought to the West, and how profound and phenomenal they were. One particular lady was Stagecoach Mary, Mary Fields. Outstanding sister. When you holler at her, oh man, she was the first black woman that was a mail carrier. It was called the Star Route. And why was it called the Star Route? It was a route that was a very popular route that she had to deliver the mail to, because a lot of prominent people was on her route, and she had a stagecoach. And one thing, she had to deal with the wolves and the coyotes and rustlers to try to rough her up. And I mean, she was doing this in her 60s, man. This lady was she always had a rifle and had her 6-shooter on her. Nobody messed with this sister. She made sure that mail got there on time, never lost no mail, never had any drama she had with any men or any Native Americans or anything like that, because a lot of our, we have this love relationship with some of our Native family members, and many of them enslaved our own people. That's another story I'm going to get to, history impact of how our First Nation people enslaved many Americans of African descent. So that's another conversation. But we really need to get to understand that so much information is available to us. And a lot of times I like to kind of tease you guys as we really, really understand how these things are related. There's another thing that just happened. Colin Kaepernick in Black and White, and a lot
That
of
was a
people
good
are
series.
interested on, his referring to the National Football League and the players as enslaved people. And they want to say, well, these players make all these millions of dollars, which is just not true. And many times, not one NFL team or NBA team is owned by 100% person of color. And when you look and you break it down as far as who really makes the money on a football team, it's basically the quarterback and all these other players. Your career may last 3, 4, and if you're lucky, maybe 5 years, and you are broken up and destroyed because many of the players, as they leave, Jack Pittsburgh Steeler guy last year Jack Ham committed suicide. So many of our players that we idolize and that we worship, uh, a lot of them are going into football because they can't do anything else. Y'all think about the opportunities that Black and brown people have. Again, you saying, well, these guys go into this willingly. A lot of times they have no other option, and they are intelligent just like anybody else. And why I'm relating this in the conversation with the cowboy, because the lack of information makes us a slave. And when you think about perception without challenge become a reality. So we perceive many things about each other. Most people don't realize that South Carolina was the first Southern state to succeed. And then when you think in 1861, you know, West Virginia was like, no, we ain't gonna go with you, Virginia, because Virginia was saying, I'm gonna go with the Confederacy. West Virginia, you think about, well, why is there West Virginia? And most people probably don't ask that question. Why is there a West Virginia? West Virginia was like, no, I'm not gonna be a slave state. That's how that came about. So again, that's why we always want to make sure that we're going to be sparking your mind so you can do your own research. But the whole goal that we're trying to give to our community is for us to understand that we are an amazing people. We are a great people. And all people have a responsibility to love and cherish one another. We have been taught this construct called white, which is intentionally made up. It is not a real construct. When we understand racism, there's not no two sides to racism. When anybody want to have a conversation with you and y'all starting off to talk about racism, is basic on power. And that power is determined by who is controlling the resources, and they can be black, brown, yellow, and blue. But when you talk about bigotry, prejudice, and all those kind of things, those are some things that are not two-sided. Again, because if you are prejudiced or you are bigoted against somebody because of their color of their skin, again, that is a serious psychological problem. And we do understand that in the totality of what we're dealing with white genetic survival, and we have to be clear about our power. And so, again, I just want to encourage our community to continue to be listening to our podcast. And if you have any questions for our history and plaque, hit me up. I'm Hubert Naeem Roberts, 810-394-4105. Email mentorroberts@gmail.com. Oh, okay. Saturday, Always remember the first and third Saturday of the month, we do a community conversation from 9 to 10.
Mhm.
Looking forward to you guys being a part of that. What we do on Saturday is try to open the door for everybody in the community to come down and have a conversation where we're trying to have a conversation about getting some things done,
Mhm.
not just going over and over and over about the problem. We don't
Right.
want to waste time with talking about the problem. We want to be solution oriented. Again, this
Mhm.
Saturday from 2 to 5, we're going to be at the Kennedy Center. St. John Historical Committee is going to be there talking about developing a plan to lay down some markers and some history over at the St. John area that was once a tremendous community where they're trying to develop some landmarks that's going to be there forever. And so we need the community to come out and be a part of that. That's 2 to 5 this Saturday at the Kennedy Center on Pearson Road. Again, Wakanda out. All right, Doctor.
We greatly appreciate the history impact, and we also always just want to do our due diligence and research and understanding what we talking about. So when he's dropping those tidbits, make sure you do your work and kind of look up on some of those things and things that we discuss even on this show today. It's at a time where we at the information stage. As we just talked about, it was a point where folks couldn't read. You'd be killed if you were found with a book, right? So while you have the opportunity to be able to do these things and learn something, but then also weaponize your mind to be stronger and address these oppressive ways, we're going to be knowledgeable how we move and strategic how we getting it done. So I encourage everybody. I talk about reading. I haven't normally I'll be reading a book.
Yeah.
Since we just talked about reading,
Right.
right? Normally I will be reading a book. Right now I'm reading the book of Powernomics, right? Because I think right now this is a critical time. We talk about capitalism, but we have to have a plan of action of how we're going to be self-sustaining. And if we ain't got that, right? Because we in this world of capitalism, it's a system, right?
Yep.
It's what we under. If you don't have no money, you ain't got no voice.
Nope.
So
No power.
you ain't no power. So I think you know, why we in this situation, we want to get our money up, right? But then be strategic how we fight and combat these issues. And so, man, you know what, this Laura, even some of these conversations, topics, and points that we talked about today, I'm going to go back and do my work and just kind of get a greater understanding, and just making sure that I know everything that's being said and everything being taught, but being able to go and establish that in folks like Keyshawn and
Right.
all our young people and just putting them in a position of power, because that's where we have to be. And that's where we want our community. We want to be the ones to be able to change the tide. And we're not waiting on nobody to do it. We're not waiting on the MOTS. We're not waiting on these different large philanthropic organizations to come in and throw us some money and try to do it. We're not doing that.
Get out of the way, actually.
There you go.
Right. Get
Right.
out the way.
That's part of the problem, not the solution.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you 200%. We always say 100.
100.
I'm 200% behind that. And I'm just grateful that you are on the board and you are working on behalf of the students and you're asking the right questions and you're looking at the treasury account and seeing exactly where these monies are going, even though that they said don't bring up the bones. We need you to.
Yeah, we need you to.
That's right.
That's what the DNA is. Yep.
Yeah, come on now. We're gonna be bagging you. Make sure y'all attend the school board meetings. Don't just come when it's
November 17th is the next one.
November 17th. And guys, tell your neighbors, tell your friends. Again, go out there. We got to go out there and force, guys. But then go out there and write your information down where you're not just going out there for entertainment.
Come on.
We're not going out there to argue. We're going out there to get some things done. And if you write it down and you in your little community groups or your families, let's just write some things down, because when you write it down, it's a little bit more clear. You can go back over it, you can share it with others, and then you can make it make sense, because we need some things to make sense.
Right.
Because we already know what the drama is. Let's get to the party and get some things done, because I always like to say we are going to die. But really, let's choose to live the rest of our life in a manner that is going to be life-giving, and we are definitely going to be servants to each other.
Servants, don't that sound good? Servants. Serving leaders is what we're expected to be.
Yeah.
Right. We want to serve. We want to serve each other. Don't it feel good when it's a gratifying feeling when I'm servicing my community? the things that's going on. It's a great feeling when I'm doing a good service to you all, right? And so we can all have that conjoined effort and really be about that. We'll be in a better position. We wouldn't even be looking at each other like this, or even having folks even looking at us like this, right? So all in all, we got a lot of work to do in this community as it relates to our schools. Some great information about the community schools background. I hope people research that.
Yes.
I know it's the so-called model for the country, but understand what that did for the community of Flint, right?
And you got to remember, the Whitney plantation in Louisiana was a model for the country. So always be careful about the model.
Always the models be a model. They be a mug, right? But no, that's exactly what it is. So, up next, as it relates to for our youth or anything else, let's leave our listeners with some action, some tangible next steps, right? So, for one, we are going to the school board meeting November 17th at 5:30 at Scott. And don't just come. This is my thing. Don't just come for one specific issue. That's sometimes we get into the thing where we come for a specific issue
or to complain. Something's wrong, and you're coming to say something.
Yeah. But if we involve every month, if we involve, we're in the schools. If we're involved, we working with the school board,
right?
And we're involved because we building with the young people and they're telling us issues at the school. If we involve on a day-to-day basis, we won't come late to the party.
And not be in a school at Southwestern last week. They're gonna have cross. They had a day last Wednesday where the boys dressed up like girls and the girls dressed up like boys.
Unacceptable.
Totally unacceptable.
That was Pride Week.
Oh,
I never
did no Pride Week like that.
Never.
And boys came to school in heels.
They did. I thought.
All right, now hang on. Hey, what's wrong with that?
What you mean? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with cross dressing?
It's not like it's a social construct. So like why high heels originated in 17th century France and it was a man's shoe because the heels were used for horseback riding to keep it in the stirrups.
Yeah, but that over the years and in transition of
you guys know
I'm at this, but we didn't say we. So the thing is, I guess this is what we're saying, right? I know the Pride Week thing and all that, right?
You know I'm queer, so I'm
okay.
But even with that, I think there has to be a healthy. Again, I think there had to be at least some type of information that was shared with the parents that they could have. At least give the parents an opportunity for them children to participate or not. I think that should have been clearly stated because a lot of parents are upset behind that.
They was confused. That's what.
And again, when we think about,
all right, because my oldest is non-binary.
Okay.
I have a non-binary child, and
right.
I just the LGBTQ community, and we have a trans youth fostering at our house, so
we not said the thing. So now, if your lifestyle is your lifestyle, that's not where we was going. What we saying is, that information wasn't shared, so some folks was kind of confused about what was going on. They didn't know it was Pride Week, just like I was telling them it was Pride Week.
Right. Had no clue.
You just thought that folks was just coming to school looking like that. Just thought it was just like, and parents was kind of pushing.
What's wrong with that?
No, I'm saying, well, parents was pushing back too, but
if you want to wear a dress, you can wear a dress. If you want to wear high heels, you can wear high heels. Like what's
if you choose to do that, that's your choice. We're not saying that, but what we're saying is, we want to. I think for us, it's just like a greater understanding.
And I think what's really critical is that even when you think about that community, the gay and lesbian and LGBTQ community have more rights than Black people. I mean, when you really get down to it, as far as what President Barack Obama was able to do, even what the Asian community was able to have done in the legislative, and still the George Floyd bill has not passed. The Lincoln bill is not passed. When you think about reparations, and then we got the nerve to sit here and say that other people are not denouncing anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been here for 500 years.
Right.
And I walk out of this building right now, can be shot dead because I am considered a criminal or a suspect. So a lot of times when we think about other ethnic groups or other communities, They never participate, even when you think about the Stonewall situation, in New York, and understand that clearly about those black men that were killed, those trans that were killed and murdered. And a lot of times the white community, trans didn't step up. They did not. So again, I'm passionate about this because I have members in my family, that are gay. And, I don't come to this lightly. I just think that when we think about people and humanity, if we're saying we want fairness for all of us across the board, nobody got a luxury to sit down and say, oh, well, they not bothering me, so I'm going to let this slide. We all in this.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I agree.
Gay, purple, yellow. I don't care what you are. Again, when you can ignore the fact of what they're doing daily to black and brown lives, you got a guy down, a judge down in Wisconsin. Man, Rittenhire, they gonna just let Rittenhire walk. And he done shot, killed 2 people, and wounded 1. He walking down the street with an AK-47. And the police just let him walk down the street like he just part of the SWAT team. Let me be walking down the street with a flashlight on my cell phone. So anyway, we're definitely glad that you came.
No. I think that's because you're touching up on something that we need to talk about. I think those are the things. It be those small nuances that we have to deal with, right? Because I myself is frustrated too with being in this position for thus long, right? I live on this leave for 30 years, right? But I'm frustrated for like I've been here for 500 years, right? But it's like, you see no advances, but you see like the Asian hate bill get passed. Like, what the heck, man? That was crazy. Like, we still hung up and we got to vote and certify every 25 years just to vote. Anybody took that off the books yet? But then we still waiting on the George Floyd bill. It just got blocked just the other day.
Yes.
So it's like, really though, where do it's frustrating to those like who just been, kind of on the wing. Right. When you talk about reparation, we don't even talk about reparation. All the money in the millions and billions and trillions of dollars the U.S. has paid out to the Jews, to the Indians, the so-called Indians, the white folks who took the certificates back in the day for $5, right? Where they having an issue in Oklahoma today. You have to have these conversations and say, like, what the heck is going on? And even Obama get in office and, hey, you've been there for 8 years, but you didn't even advance the issues for the black community.
And come to and drink the water. Unacceptable.
That was symbolic in the mug, and we was pissed off about that. So those are the things that makes us really like just look and scratch our head. Yeah. So it's like those things is unacceptable, and we can't stand for that. So we gonna fight for real. We're gonna fight for real.
Right.
Till everybody is liberated.
Everybody.
And right now, we still feel like 500 years ago. I'm just being honest. We might not have shackles on, but there's some shackles going on somewhere. I'm just appalled. I'm mad that they blocked the bill the other day.
Me too.
And then you just see the turnout in Virginia. This is ridiculous, right? We losing points, but then more or less you got fake Dixiecrats in here just ain't voting. Mansions sitting up here holding up the block. Now Republicans took back. Democrats is on the back end. It's just a game. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It is frustrating. It's really silly. It's like a circus, and we ain't getting nothing done.
Nothing.
It's feel like Flint. The nation. We feel like from the nation level. We like Flint. I don't. You know what I'm saying? But that's some real conversations that we have to have. We really have to be legitimate about saying, hey, we're not doing some things, and we need to back. Just look at this thing, reanalyze it, and let's make sure that all people are being represented.
We've always had real conversations.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know. That's why I rock with you like this. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it twisted. Even the audience, don't get it twisted. It's my girl, Ace Coon Boom, day one. We've been rocking for a long time. And it's good we had these conversations. And I understand you got the situation at the house and those things. I got the situation at my house. I got standards that I uphold for my children. You got standards you uphold for your children, right? And that's respect, right? But as a community, we have to go ahead and do better where we are. We have to do better. And it's good to have these conversations. Maybe uncomfortable. So what? Right? Yeah, but it leads to greater understanding. All right. So in a nutshell, that's where we are. So
can I can give out my I have
my
number.
You sure can.
It's public, and it's not my school board number, so it's my activist number.
It's not
Come on now.
not a secret number, guys.
Oh,
She's giving
God,
out a
no.
real number.
No,
This
no,
ain't the
no.
Google number. This is
No,
not the
no.
Google
number.
If you want my school board number, it's on the website and
No.
whatever. You know, you can.
Extension 99.
Nah.
Honestly, I don't even know what it is. But like we're talking about what can you do, and
Yeah.
we're talking about
Mhm.
connecting
Yep.
people to different resources,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
getting people together to
Yeah.
you know to kind of brainstorm.
There you go.
and
Yeah.
Right,
create
right.
some
Mhm.
stuff,
Strategize.
Yep.
Whether
Yep.
it's through
Strategize.
the schools, with the schools,
That's right.
or
Yeah.
not,
Right.
or not.
Or
Mhm.
not.
We can
Right.
make our own structures.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah,
When we
right.
ready for
I
that?
know that. I know.
I'm telling you,
Just,
we can
know,
make our own schools right now
That's right.
That's right.
and get all our
Absolutely.
students back from all
Right.
these outer counties and get that.
We already have freedom schools in Mrs. Delaware.
Come on, man. Let's.
keep
Right.
it.
Oh,
Let's
I'm
keep
trying to
it
tell
rolling.
you.
Keep
Okay,
it rolling.
now you talking.
So yeah. So my number is 810-618-6006, and yeah, please. I don't ever like clear my inbox, so
Wow.
you know I can't keep up with it. So
I know.
yeah, text or call, and yeah, that's my number, and let's get this moving.
Yes.
And I know I've been throwing it out there, promising that we're
I'm
gonna
sorry, I didn't get it.
810-618-6006.
All right.
And we are gonna do the book club with Demolition Means Progress. We've been trying to.
I'm with that.
Man,
Let me know when
and
that start.
This is my conspiracy theory. It's a $32 book.
Mhm.
It's real expensive, like for a University of Chicago book. And I'm just thinking, man, they really don't want us to read it, do they? But we're trying to get it. We're trying to get copies of it to give away to the community.
Mhm.
So like we're really going to do another deep dive. I know we've had book readings of this before,
Mhm.
but they've been whitewashed and sanitized.
Come on now.
I mean, taking us into the Sloan Museum and saying, "Oh, we've got these." You know,
I know.
this is a safe space, and here are the
Right.
rules about how you
Right.
can talk about this book. And then Dane Wallen's
That's-
sitting in a chair right over there, and I'm like, no,
no.
no,
You already know
I'm
where
not
this going.
doing this
No, that's right.
conversation.
Not participate.
No, not with someone who needs to be in jail sitting right next to me over there.
He just
No.
sitting legs crossed like this is ridiculous.
No, I'm not doing this. Yeah,
No,
this
that's
is,
right.
this is not a safe space. The cultural center is not a safe space.
Not a safe place.
No,
Tell you
this
that.
whole
When you
safe
talk
space.
about the culture center, look how bad the culture center. They was able to build a school in a year.
Oh, that's
No.
our. That was
Ain't that
school-
something?
That,
Yeah, I just-
that was
this
Flint Community School property that we gave away.
Sarvis.
for free.
Sarvis?
No, for $75,000. But
$75,000.
that's
$75,000. Okay,
Yeah,
that,
that was Sarvis.
I'll do a
Food
Yep.
GoFundMe and raise $75,000. Give me that property. Come on.
come on, right? That was,
That was terrible.
that's what we do. We make those type of moves.
And then our central kitchen was in that, and then they bulldozed it, and then now we've got our central kitchen outsourced to Sodexo in a building that we. Like
And
I
we need to
said,
give more healthy food to our children. Like that.
Oh,
Can
man.
we look at that? Because we was
So-
at Northwestern and they was giving them like nothing but sweets and like treats and
Oh
stuff.
my God!
I don't
we
know
gotta
how
get
they
rid of
got-
Sodexo.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
another issue. I've got a
Mhm.
whole thing with Sodexo.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I
'Cause they,
wonder
they
that.
also did some stuff at the University of Michigan. They're like a corporate
Yeah.
food provider.
Yeah,
and I
they
say
are.
food with an asterisk because that's not anything we should.
Yeah,
be
ain't
putting
nothing
in
but
our
nothing but
bodies.
no food at all.
No,
Nothing that's gonna
And
generate
so-
brain
and I
activity.
did promise Claire McClinton, my mentor.
Big shout out to Mama Claire.
Mama Claire.
Mhm.
That she's like, bring them the food. She's like, they want some home cooked. So I promised her
on.
that's like top of the list.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring
Okay.
something back because you always got to have food. What's organizing 101? You bring the food.
Bring the food. That's
Water.
gonna
People come.
keep us
and
gonna come.
diapers and
And
everything.
yeah,
And
right.
you know what I'm saying?
People come.
Yeah, you gotta have the food.
And they might not stay, but
People come.
Right.
they gonna
It could
come
be
for
a
sure.
pot of chili, but
I think that'd be good though. I think like
Right?
bring like some home. How can we
man.
give moms like jobs and let them cook the home meal,
I
a
got
healthy meal?
some plans for that. I
Okay.
got, with my day job.
Okay.
Because we're looking at the food system.
Come on now.
And it's not unconnected to the Mott Foundation again with the Krim Foundation, and
It's connected.
Oh my God! Yeah, they've got the new culinary institute that's run by 3 white chefs.
You talking about downtown?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't even been in there yet.
Well, who has been in there? Nobody from Flint.
Okay, you're right.
So, I
You
mean,
right.
and you know,
I wondered.
who
I
would
wondered.
want to? I mean,
Right.
we've had enough
Yeah,
like
this is crazy.
culinary talent. I mean, you just walk down the street, and you can see somebody who just has, you know, their barbecue set up,
Right.
feeding the community, right?
Right.
And we've got to have a downtown culinary institute with 3 white men who are
That
teaching. No,
you right about.
Wow.
I
Right
didn't.
about
I
it.
didn't even know.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know the setup was going on over there.
no,
Wow.
and it costs a lot of money too. So like
I'm pretty sure.
like it's inaccessible to
Just regular folks can't
to the
walk
regular
in.
folks. Yeah, so
Okay, I got you.
if we
Wow.
I've got some plans. We've got a local grocer. I want to give a shout out to the local grocer. in our
Okay.
Big shout out to the local grocery.
Yeah,
You know, they're doing some
because
great
we
things in
want
the
some
community.
food. We've got some food system. They got farms. They've got hoop houses. they
Okay.
do local.
Can we teach the youth how to agriculture so they can feed
Yes,
themselves? Right?
yes,
You
yes,
make them
we've
put a.
got we're gonna have some homesteading.
Come on,
classes. We've
yeah.
got Vicky Marks, who's
There
got
you go.
like
That's life
a
skills.
square patch in her backyard, and
Mhm.
Okay.
she's got everything canned and pickled all for the winter.
Now that's teaching them longevity.
Longevity.
How you can
yes.
feed yourself.
So
Let's do that.
We're gonna do all those skills.
Okay.
And the
Beautiful.
Restaurant Opportunity Center Rock is gonna
Mhm.
do all this training for free. We're gonna do
Come on now.
classes.
Come on.
We're gonna do bartending. You know, we're gonna all these skills that the Culinary Institute is offering for
Yes.
$1,000.
You got all people
It's-
supporting that.
That's
Yeah,
it.
they
So
loving
it's-
that.
Yep. And it's not unconnected to the schools, right? Because these are all our community resources. This is all in-house. We don't have to go out of county. We don't need third-party vendors. We got it all right here.
Mm.
Right. And now we've got the funding.
And we got the
Now
funding.
We've got the funding.
We got the
And
funding,
so we
y'all.
gotta support our own. We gotta support the local
No
grocers.
excuses. Yes.
We gotta
Yes.
support
I
the
love
Maine
it.
Institute has
Yeah.
I love it.
houses with the returning citizens
I
who
love
are
it.
growing their own food.
I
Yeah.
love
We've
it.
got
I love it.
Asbury Church that has, you know, dinner boxes that they're giving out to the community.
Come on
They're
now.
doing community dinners. They're teaching youth how to eat together and be, you know, what's it? You know what I'm saying? To
Yes.
have
Entrepreneurs.
not just to be
Just to
entrepreneurs,
connect each other together
Oh,
to
okay.
eat.
so
Yeah.
to make food, to read recipes, to
Oh,
create things,
okay.
and to
Yeah.
sit together and break bread together.
Come on now.
Excellent.
I like that.
Right?
You creating it, right? You
Right.
creating a space,
Right.
right, to get together through food.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Because we all,
That's right.
yeah, no,
You know,
I love it.
Thanksgiving every year.
And that's another love
Yeah.
language. Food
That's
is
right.
a love language.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
Because I mean, you talked about the Montgomery bus boycott. You
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
That's
Mhm.
the first thing they did was organize the food.
Come on now.
Come on, we gotta eat.
You gotta
We
get
got
the
to eat.
breakfast and the lunches, and you
Mhm.
gotta get everything all together so that people have the stamina to do the work.
I'm hoping that we have the same zeal as those folks in Montgomery,
Oh,
right?
Man.
Doing the bus boycott, the
well,
bus
and
boycott.
and the Black Panther Party, they're the ones that did the
Breakfast
Breakfast program,
That's
right.
and the Head Start and all that.
That's right.
Come on
And
now.
then it was
Big shout out to the
and it was
Black
co-opted,
Panthers. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
they
it
just
turned into a so-called
called them
federal
the
program.
called them the
And
WIC.
who was it? It was the sisters who were out there
That's right.
cooking the breakfast.
That's
We
right.
need to get back to that.
That's right.
How can even
So
and that's something on the
Well,
we had to
let's bring
yeah.
the Panthers back and like do breakfast
Yeah.
in the schools. Like let's go.
because I see that's a place for mothers who have these children that's going to these schools, right? That's a way to keep them engaged and involved. If we all preparing meals and feeding our children, right? They're getting brain stimulation and now they're ready to learn. Then we got after school activities. See, it's the small things that count, right?
Mhm.
And I really think that those ideas that we're talking about, we can really do some things with that.
And I mean, you can read recipes. It involves math. It involves science. If you're cooking, it's involving chemistry.
Right.
I mean, this is all
Right,
connected
with
to
the-
education.
Yeah.
It's
It
a
is, it
holistic
is.
experience. It's not, ooh, I'm going to go do this class. I'm going to do math here. I'm going to do music over here. I'm going
Right.
to read. No, it's all together.
It's all inclusive.
That's all.
Excellent.
I'm excited. I'm so some key takeaways. We'll be attending that school board meeting.
Yes, sir.
What's next? What's something small and on the surface that we can do as
Doable.
next
Yeah,
steps?
doable. Next step.
Just us, basically, just based off our conversation today. Small things, small stuff.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna be greeting the students every Monday, so we want to
Mhm.
make sure you put that information out there
Right.
to the board.
Right.
And then also we have the rights of passage program.
Right.
That's actually at Southwestern
Southwestern.
DTM.
Okay. Okay.
So we definitely would love to be able to connect with the school board and potentially get the rest of the schools or just do something, have a presence.
Yeah.
So
I think that would be good.
we definitely want to do that. So what else are we going to do?
I
What
think
else?
one of the takeaways, like she was saying earlier about, locally, if you can start having conversations with your family members or your block club members or what have you about, getting together with some information and talking about some things that you guys are willing to do and not asking anybody else for help. I think that's a start, and really come over to the school board and listen to some information. And then that's where we can start meeting one another. And as she just said, with the food love language, maybe we can invite and have like a group down here at the office. We can
Love
have like a
language.
potluck.
Let's do it.
And a potluck could be around action items for the school.
I
That's
love it.
something like you say.
Community Thanksgiving here.
Let's do it. That's what we. That's something that we can do.
A trestle table and I don't know, like
Now let's start setting those things in motion. If we talking love language, we talking conversation over dinner, right? A potluck. Let's with everybody, youth, mentors,
Just an idea, when you think about
administrators.
some takeaways from this and this conversation, very stimulating, very informative. Because again, I think collectively, when people in the community start understanding what's going on, then they can feel that they got a part in it. I think that brings value to it. And so if we can help people feel validated and worthy, I think that could be the real spark that we can get some changes and consistent changes where people will say, well, I can do this. I can write. I can cook. I can decorate. Matter of fact, I can help organize. And we're not looking at nothing elaborate, just real simple. If it's just a peanut butter sandwich, we're just saying something
I can do
simple.
that. I can do that. I got
Me
that,
too.
I can eat that.
We're just saying something
I got
simple that can be practical. And if we start little, and again, a lot of times, guys, when we crawled before we walked or ran, and if we just kept it simple and just build the energy and let that spirit marinate, that's how you start a movement. Because even when you talked about the bus guy in Montgomery, it actually started with 4 women,
Right.
in 46.
Right.
And they were college educated and working at the college, and they just got tired
Come
of
on.
being mistreated. It didn't have nothing to do with Dr. King. It was some women, some sisters was like, I'm tired of this. And they started collectively coming together and meeting. It was a council of women that started meeting at first. And then it metamorphed into something else. But again, it started with like-minded people saying enough is enough. And I think that's what we got. I know this community is heavy. This community is broken. And through that brokenness, we got to say, since we are here, we got to encourage all of us to say there's something we all can do. And that's how we have to be excited and how we have to be engaging is looking at each other and being happy to see each other. Just not feeding on
Come on.
on the tea.
Come on.
We want to feed on the goodness of love and the spirit of connectedness, and really push back on all that other stuff that others want to keep labeling us and Flint is nothing and no good around the country. Again, we here. We're not running away from here. And so that's something that we can really draw on. So that was just a suggestion, guys.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So we want to definitely give our guest, Laura Macintyre,
Yes.
Flint School Board Treasurer.
Thank you.
Show her some
Mama,
love. Give her
yes.
some love.
Yes,
She
yes.
came doing, lit it up, right?
Kiana.
Yeah, Keyshawn. Yeah, she brought Keyshawn Wade, Southwestern alumni. Yeah, man. What's up, Keyshawn? You all right over there? It's the doctor. That's the doctor over there.
I owe him. I owe him. So,
You owe him for coming and hanging
I
out.
dragged him all over with me today. Yeah, and he's like,
We appreciate you coming, young brother. You gonna come back? You should speak for the young people sometimes, man.
he will.
He look like he just hanging in the wing. All right, whenever you're ready, young brother. Well, definitely though, we had a very, 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 inspiring conversation. I know I'm definitely gonna go back to the drawing board, and write down some ideas and see how we can kind of implement. But I think starting on a small scale with maybe bringing a potluck,
Yes.
bringing folks together, just have a conversation. That might be something to start with. Okay. Okay. Well,
right,
And then show up to the
greeting our students.
to the greeting our students. Come
Yes,
to the school
yes,
board meeting.
yes,
Bring your
yes,
ideas. Give me a
yes.
call.
Yes,
let's
make
start
some
it
noise
going.
and let us know how we continue to be a support for the board, because we want to definitely be behind. We want to support the board on the issues that we believe strong in, and we'll be active members here on out. Okay.
All right, I'm Hubert Naeem Roberts again. Wakanda out.
Community conversation this Saturday.